Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something pretty interesting. We're going to take a look at India's corporate landscape.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah, and there's been some pretty major news from a company you've probably heard of, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, or HAL as most people know them.
Right.
And they just achieved something really significant in the Indian business world. They were granted Maharatna status, which I have to admit I'm not completely familiar with. What does that even mean?
Well, it's pretty impressive when you understand the system.
Okay.
It's kind of like this. The Indian government ranks companies based on how well they're performing. And as they climb higher in the rankings, they get more and more autonomy.
Okay, so it's like a tiered system with like perks at each level.
Exactly. There's Maharatna, Navratna, and at the very top, you guessed it, Maharatna. And it's a pretty exclusive club. We're talking only 14 companies in all of India that can claim that title. And now HAL is one of them.
Wow. That does sound like a major accomplishment.
It really is.
But what does it actually take for a company to reach that top Maharatna level?
Well, it's not as simple as just, building a few planes.
Right.
There are some really strict financial criteria a company needs to meet. Like, to even be considered, they need a net worth. And by that I mean the total value of their assets minus any liabilities of at least 5,000 crores.
5,000 crores. That's a lot of zeros.
It is. And it's not just about how much they're worth on paper, but how well they're actually performing financially. HAL had to show a net profit, so that's the money they have left over after all their expenses of at least 500 crores, and not just for 1 year, but for 3 years in a row.
They have to prove they can keep that momentum going.
Exactly. Consistent success. And on top of that, they need to have an average annual turnover, which basically means their total revenue, all the money they're bringing in, of at least 25,000 crores, again, for the past 3 years.
So we're talking about a company that's a real financial powerhouse, bringing in serious revenue year after year and actually turning a profit.
That's it. And the thing is, this isn't just, some arbitrary ranking system that the Indian government came up with.
Right.
They designed the whole Ratna system for a reason. The idea is to encourage these companies, these public sector companies, to really strive for growth, to be as efficient as possible.
It's like a reward system then, right? To kind of incentivize them to operate at their best, which in turn, I imagine, boosts the Indian economy as a whole.
Now you're getting it. And for HAL, getting this upgrade to Maharatna status, well, it sends a pretty clear message. It tells everyone, hey, these guys are doing something right.
Okay, so this Maharatna status, it's obviously a big deal, but it's got to be more than just bragging rights, right?
You're telling me this isn't just a gold star they get to put on their website.
Yeah. What concrete benefits does HAL actually get from this?
Well, a whole bunch, especially when it comes to their financial autonomy. Think about it. How much freedom do they have to make big decisions to invest in their future?
Right, because before this, they were kind of limited, right?
Yeah, anytime they wanted to make a big investment, anything over a certain limit, they had to go through this whole process of getting government approval.
Which I imagine could really slow things down.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But now, that limit is way higher. They've got a lot more room to maneuver.
Okay, so less red tape, more freedom to make moves. Got it. How does that translate into actual, changes for how HAL operates?
Imagine this. HAL is looking at some cutting-edge drone technology, right? Something that could give them a real advantage in the market.
Okay, I'm imagining it.
In the past, they might have had to pass on that because of all the approvals it would require. Too risky. But now, they can jump on that opportunity, be more responsive to the market.
So it's not just about the money itself, it's about being nimble, being able to move quickly when the opportunity is there.
Precisely. And this doesn't just impact HAL internally. This newfound autonomy, it sends a message to the whole world.
Oh, interesting. What kind of message are we talking about?
Okay, picture this. HAL, with Maharatna status under their belt, walks into a room full of potential international partners. That status, it does a lot of the talking for them. It shows they're credible, they're strong, they're here to stay.
It's like the Indian government is vouching for them, basically.
Right. It's huge for building trust. And that can translate to better collaborations, easier negotiations, even attracting top talent from around the globe. People want to work with winners.
It sounds like this Maharatna status could really launch HAL into a whole new league.
It definitely has that potential. But it's important to remember, HAL's success doesn't just impact HAL, right? There are bigger implications here for India as a whole.
Right, because a stronger HAL means a stronger Indian defense industry.
Exactly, and that's huge for everything from national security to India's presence on the world stage. The more self-reliant a country is when it comes to defense, the better.
And it's not just about geopolitics either, right? Doesn't this also have implications for innovation, job creation?
100%. Think about all the engineers, the scientists, the entire workforce that supports a company like HAL, this Maharatna status. It's a huge boost for them, too. Could even inspire a whole new generation to enter those fields.
A ripple effect, almost.
That's a great way to put it. And speaking of ripple effects, there's another group we haven't talked about yet, one that's watching all this very closely. Investors,
Right, because HAL stock, it's had its ups and downs, right?
for sure. And this Maharatna status, that's a major development. The markets are definitely paying attention.
So what could this mean for HAL's stock? What are investors looking at here? So what could this mean for HAL stock? What are investors looking at here?
Well, you got to remember this Maharatna status is like a huge vote of confidence from the Indian government. It's a sign that they see HAL as a major player in a really important sector, and investors, they pick up on that. Often translates into more interest, more investment.
So we could see, what, a jump in the HAL stock value just from the announcement itself.
Oh, it's definitely possible. It's not unusual at all. Companies get a nice little stock boost after a big win like this.
Makes sense. But it's got to be about more than just, like, short-term gains, right?
You're right. This makes HAL more attractive to long-term investors, too. Think about those benefits we talked about, the financial autonomy, the potential to expand internationally. That's all really appealing for someone looking for a stable long-term investment.
So it's not just about what HAL is now, it's about what this status lets them become.
Exactly. Though it's not all, smooth sailing from here. Investors, they're going to be watching closely. They want to see how HAL uses this new freedom. Will they actually make smart decisions? Can they handle international expansion? Big questions.
So Maharatna status gives them the potential, the tools to succeed, but it's not a guarantee.
Exactly. And, there's another layer to this we haven't even touched on, the impact on competition in India's defense sector as a whole.
Oh, that's right. We've been so focused on HAL, we haven't thought about the bigger picture.
Yeah, so you have HAL with its elevated status, other companies, both public and private. You're going to feel the heat, right? Got to
Right.
keep up. Could lead to some really interesting competition for contracts, for talent, even for innovation.
So it's not just HAL versus the rest of the world anymore. It's about how this changes the whole game within India.
Right. And who knows what that could lead to. More private companies entering the defense sector,
Mm.
existing companies joining forces, forming alliances. It's going to be fascinating to watch.
This whole Maharatna thing, it's like opening up a Pandora's box of possibilities, not just for HAL, but for the entire Indian defense sector.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I'll
Yeah.
definitely be keeping an eye on how this all plays out. It's going to be interesting, that's for sure.
Me too. And for our listeners, if you're interested in a company with a good story, a bright future, a company that could become a major player in a really important industry, well, HAL is the one to watch. This has been The Deep Dive. We'll see you at our next deep dive into another fascinating topic.